she's falling apart and we're thinking about sending to her specialty setting, almost always it comes back to, oh, her medication hasn't changed in a while, she needs to kind of, they need to look at her doses and how, all that stuff. And then we get the medication kind of squared away and she's good and we don't think about sending her to another setting anymore, and that makes me happy. So to hear that she, as a young lady, is thinking about not taking her medication, I am scared. I am scared for what is going to happen because she's at a very vulnerable age. And I want her to take that medication. But, right, it's not my choice. It's that family's choice. So I need to be like, let's do the pros and cons and what backup system are we going to put in place? Like, how will we know this decision is working for you and how will we know it's not working for you? And what are we going to do if we come up with the fact it might not be working? How are we going to get back together? But if I just said, you're crazy, why are you going off the medication? Well, then that door is totally closed, right?
I want to address one arts thing I've been thinking about, you bringing that up, and technology. We're finding that students are very creative using the assistive technology in terms of artistic expression. And since you're more recent graduates of high schools, I assume, then you'll see that we have a lot more web design, a lot more game design classes, and that's one a lot of our students excel at. That's one of their creative, it doesn't have a lot of the environmental factors, it doesn't have a huge social piece, it doesn't have a lot of sound, it doesn't have a lot, sometimes some of the games that they develop, that's what I'm seeing at the high school level. A lot of our students are going into that.
So they're classes.
We have classes that we have music theory, music design, web design, game design. Those type of courses are really a nice avenue for students that respond always not positively to the environment piece, and it doesn't have that social piece as well, because that's a big challenge for them. They're able to go and create music, games, art, photography. We have a big photography class. We have ceramics. This is at the high school level. At the elementary, it's a little more inclusive in that. We do have kids running out of the music class, I have to say. It's
Too loud.
It's too noisy. It's just too much stimulation for somebody who can't regulate themselves on a regular basis. So why set them up, I think, to be unsuccessful?
Now, the design process is an extremely social process. How does that work?
Well,
brainstorming, working in groups.
That piece, I've seen it in action, not that much. I haven't been in the classrooms, but sitting on teams, what'll happen is a teacher will come in a meeting and say, they're doing really well on their own designing, but they don't understand. And that's when I'll suggest have them just have one partner and have them take a job. Like I said, you really have to teach people how to share and turn take. And some people it's easier. Even at your level, you'll see there's some people that can work in a group and other people that are going to have their own practice. In terms of, team players, quote unquote. And can those people that do better by themselves be taught to be team players? That's a question. Or do we make it hard for them the whole rest of their lives, like where they have to be their own boss? So I think that's a more philosophical, ethical piece.
Maybe they're designing separately, but it's still like those courses, it's inclusive in the sense that anybody can be in those courses, and do they share at all with each other?
Oh, absolutely.
So that's what I'm saying, just important to have.
Yeah, so it's another access to education that they can be successful at with other students, where some things have to be more in isolation. And sometimes students are in certain classes with other people, and sometimes they're not. But I also think that the design piece in terms of artistic gives students a way to use patterning, things that they've learned that make more sense to them. It's another way to design, have a creative outlet, but make sense to them.
And that strikes a thought to me that there are several people that are on the spectrum that make their livelihood as artists. You know, like that's not an uncommon thing. Locally, you talked about that, so how do we support that? If I think my end goal is to get somebody to be employable, how do I support that? If they can make their living as an artist, what are we gonna do? Like, what skills do they need to make, besides being able to create beautiful art, what skills do they need, or how are they gonna get that support?
We talked earlier about the cultural, the culture within the school. Some of the students were saying we had inclusion, but it didn't go so well, or, you know, and so we're just curious in the 4 schools, you know, how is the inclusion? How does, it sounds like it's been pretty good, or?
Well, it depends on so many factors. I'm in 4 towns, I would say one of the towns has an incredible model, and for some reason the kids they start in kindergarten and those are their friends, you know, and it's amazing to me. Because sometimes
Is it different because it starts in kindergarten?
I think
Is
it's
that
because the way it started in kindergarten, and and I think, really, those are your friends, they don't talk, you know, like they're not verbal, but they are, and they really feel that they're their friends, and I think, that part, it just seems to work all the way up to high school. I have to say, there are some awkward ages in the middle school range where.
It's awkward anyway.
So there are, and I do teach K-12, so I see, so many different factors. But so at my 4 towns, my experience has been, all over the place. I have one town that I think has a little bit more, like everybody's perfect, so these kids aren't, and so they really struggle. So I don't know the kind of, the climate of each school. And then to the point where we don't even have the most challenged kids at some of our high schools. We try to regionalize the programs so that, just for numbers' sake and program's sake, so that students that would have more challenges are all at a high school where they're learning how to work and they're going out and doing Meals on Wheels and doing all these kinds of things, and they kind of have them together. So because they're not all at other high schools, the exposure might be different. So then when you have kids that are even just a little bit on the spectrum that are in there, but there's been a huge push with something called unified sports and unified arts. I don't know if you're familiar with that. So unified movement is a federally based organization under the Special Olympics umbrella, and their mission is to give everybody the same opportunity versus Special Olympics that traditionally was like this little isolated track and field event that was cute, and let's go once a year and help these students with Down syndrome or whatever participate in sports, to a level of inclusion that has brought about the arts in a huge way, because they found not only do they need to have opportunities that are equal, so each unified team has half typically developing and half special needs. So that's the first thing. Then they added theater. So the unified theater, which in our town, where we live, is huge. So it's another venue where they're getting federally funded. Is it time for us to go?
No.
Oh, okay.
Or Nancy, I guess.
Okay, so everybody.
Sit down.
We
No.
can do it.
Yeah, sit down now. Everybody.
Is it the floor? Do you guys want to sit?
Okay,
I sit on the floor all day. I know. You're like Nick.
There's something going on.
I can do
Does anyone happen to have a charger for a Mac that's not Retina?
I have a charger for Mac that's not right now.
You want
I do too.
It's like the newer one.
Oh, so it's
cheap to buy.
I got a scholarship for mine.
Really?
Yeah. But I got it also my senior year.
It's either My scholarship doesn't cover it.